respond, and the Hornets were switching, causing issues, getting downhill in the first half. What were the little things that you guys did that allowed you to weather the storm and pull this one off?
Well, we didn't do a lot of the little things right in the first half, and I think that's why there was a storm. Beginning with, getting back with enough urgency. They were able to get to the rim in transition, and we didn't get stops. We weren't playing the way we needed to play defensively, and I think we were fortunate to be where we were because we were still making some shots. But I thought at a halftime, we really internalized that we needed to, to be solid on the defensive end, and then the offense has a way of taking care of itself, regardless of how people are defending us. If we just space and we're ready to shoot the ball, we can be effective.
Eric Walden, Salt Lake Tribune.
Q, what did you see specifically kind of change defensively as the game went along? Obviously, it seemed like the transition defense improved a little bit, maybe a little more sound and pick and roll. What specifically started working for you in the second half, and especially in that 26-2 run?
Well, when you have everybody doing their job, pretty well, or one guy has a breakdown, those things add up. So it was a variety of things. You mentioned we weren't getting back. They were laying the ball in a few times, and we just weren't. We weren't alert. We weren't locked up on the ball where we needed to be in pick and roll. We weren't talking and getting late switches when we needed to. We weren't hitting people on the glass. We weren't high enough at the point of the screen. We weren't locked enough against the guy in the corner. There was a bunch of things that, they didn't happen every time, but when you have a possession and one or two things goes wrong, we didn't communicate. Those teams or those things show themselves. And, I thought Charlotte did a really good job too. I mean, they made plays and took advantage of the fact that we weren't as precise as we needed to be on the defensive end. And, I thought the second half, we cleaned a lot of those things up, all those little things. And, it makes it harder. And then, you're fortunate if you can get them to miss some of those shots if they're, having to work harder to get them.
Sarah Todd, Deseret News.
George, variable he previously has in other seasons. It was probably a matter of how gratifying is it to come through struggles that he's had this season.
Sarah, I'm sorry. I couldn't. I only heard like little parts of the question. Which player you say George?
George.
Jordan or George?
George. Yeah,
George.
George.
George, because he's like a really capable player, but obviously he's been struggling. So is it nice to see him kind of get out of that a little bit?
Yeah, it's the thing about George's shooting is that the best thing is he hasn't stopped, and we have so much confidence in him shooting the ball. But I think it's like our team, his ability to just run in transition, get on the defensive glass, doing all those other things. I've felt like I've looked at a game where he's, been 0 for 5 or something and still felt like he played well. And, I'd like to think our guys can play well, even if they're not making shots, as long as they're taking the right shots. And in George's case, as you said, it's affirming, to keep doing that, because we're all, it's human nature. You can get frustrated if you're not seeing the ball go in the basket, particularly, someone like George who's as good a shooter as he is. So I just like the fact that he didn't hesitate and he kept shooting. And, that's how you break through, is if you keep shooting it. So yeah, it's, I think all his teammates know how hard he works, and know that, he's doing all the little things that he can do to help the team. And, his shooting is something that when he's, on like that, it's obviously a big deal for us, and he's a weapon.
David James, KUTV.
Quinn, that was an awful lot of turnovers there. Do you attribute them to spacing, decision making, focus? What happened?
This is a team in Charlotte that, that's what they do. And I think spacing definitely early on. I thought, something as simple as, ball faking, pass faking, looking passes off, not making a one, but just being really fundamentally sound, because they take advantage of that. When you do those things, you're able to generate good shots, but they're the way that they play, they're aggressive. And if you take care of the ball, you're going to have those opportunities. But, as you said, when you don't, they're going the other direction. And those plays are big, big swings. I thought, you saw us be much more precise, both with the spacing and with our passing in the second half. And, the results were good.
Last question, Andy Larson, Salt Lake Tribune.
When that lineup of Conley, Clarkson, Joe, George, and Rudy has been phenomenal for you guys on really both ends of the floor. What is it that makes them, obviously there's a lot of spacing there offensively, but, especially defensively, why does that work out so well?
Well, I think those guys, and Mike, Mike starts it with, his pressure on the ball, and just being up and disruptive and having an impact on the game. And, I think one thing is their communication, where they do a good job of talking plays out. And maybe, additionally, 'cause it's not a real big team, that there's some urgency on the defensive glass. And maybe it's because if they get a rebound, they know they go to get to the other end and shoot too. So there's incentivized. But I think Rudy's the key to a lot of that, to be honest with you. When the floor is spaced like that, him tonight, his running, his rolling to the rim, and his presence defensively. And those guys know how to use him, and, and they're connected.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Okay.